Hello everyone, my name is Kurazar, and welcome back to the Vintage Story Guide. What's that? Something's different? Do I sound different? I sure hope so. Between episodes, I had a chance to do some hardware upgrades to my headset and some reconfiguration, and we are actually, believe it or not, we are actually back in OBS. We are recording this episode with OBS. I have a new headset, the Audio-Technica M50X STS USB headset, and I think it sounds a ton better than previously because this one, along with OBS, they just completely negate the hiss of my computer fans. But that isn't all that I've been up to in the intervening time between last episode and this one. As you can see, and as you probably saw when we started the episode, we have some very, very nice round door frames. I spent a while copying these and pushing them around and doing some touch-up work on all of our door frames that we have in the house. Now, I say all, it's not quite all. You'll see some of these here aren't quite finished yet either. But we have basically all the door frames where we actually have like rooms connecting to each other. We have these nice round door frames, and I am here for it. Oh, I forgot to finish this off too. Oh well, that's for later. Now, this is great and all, but there is a problem we're going to run into that we're not going to be able to fix. And that is, we're getting to a point where we have a lot of chiseled blocks all in very small areas, and this can really mess with the game's lighting engine, specifically block lighting. Now, block lighting means a light that you place down, such as this oil lamp here, and that is a light source that emanates from a block. And block lighting is calculated differently from player-held lighting. They are two separate systems. So everything looks great right here right now, right? Well, I'm going to take this off of my hand, and, well, you'll see. Ugh. Yeah. This happens, this junk, and there isn't anything you can do about it. So if I were to place this lantern right here, same thing, doesn't help a bit. So this is a lighting engine issue that Tyron is aware of, I believe, and I suppose, or I hope it's on the roadmap for a fix. But that is one of the reasons why I do carry around a lantern at all times, is that even in the first season, we did have some scenarios where the lighting in the house was kind of weird, so I just made sure to always carry a lantern just to get the best lighting. And no, I have no idea why this limestone is so much grayer than this limestone. Again, probably just lighting, because, yeah, this is sort of behind some of this pine here, but I really don't know. It's just it's very weird. But that isn't the only shenaniganry I was up to in between episodes, because I went on a bit of a short journey, not a long one, down to our trader, our luxury goods trader, where I was in search of a pair of pants and a breastplate for our Forlorn Hope armor set. Unfortunately, they didn't have that, but they did have something else. They had a resonator. And I have that resonator in a box right here. That's right, and we also have several tuning cylinders. Now, some of these tunes we have heard, I have played them in the videos I've been producing, and we have listened to Through the Grass at Night. I'll typically play that at night. And we also have Vintage Story, which I've played pretty reasonably often, so you might recognize this tune after a minute. So yes, it's kind of loud. Anyway, putting you away. This one's a bit quieter, it'll still be kind of loud. One thing I do like about this is that the volume is actually based on your distance from the resonator. Oh, check out these spines move too. That's pretty wild. Oh, and there's gears turn? Yes. So yeah, so this is something you'll hear when I am building or adventuring at night. But if we go over here, get quieter and quieter. Until we can't hear it anymore. Well, we still can, just barely. But it's got a pretty good radius on it. It's like 30 or 40 blocks. So if you want to listen to some music while you are building and you want a specific tune, this will override any in-game music the game is playing. And it'll play the Tuning Cylinders tune. Now, 3 songs that I have not played yet because we didn't find the cylinders for them and they're not part of the normal game tracks that play randomly are The Invention, Cultured Tavern, and Quirky Tavern. And I'm not going to play them on the resonator, but I think what we'll do is I will play them in the background while we are working today. But yeah, hope you enjoy them. They're interesting, quirky in some ways, and I think the Cultured and Quirky Tavern should be like reversed because the Cultured Tavern is like and this is like a happy like dun, 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 little jig kind of going on. But what are we doing this episode, Corazar? Well, if you recall, in the last episode we finished, or started and finished, okay, not quite finished, this entire hallway. We have this nice runner here, which I'm really enjoying. And I like that I did the wood first so that it sounds like we're walking on wood rather than on stone. Because whatever block you chisel at first, whatever your first primary block is, that is what the game uses for the sounds that you will make when walking over it, as well as what tools are needed to lift it up. But we also made this rear exit with a cute little roof here, and I think this will fit pretty well into our build in the long term. Now today's going to be a bit more of an infrastructure day, but I brought down all of our storage vessels from the old house, the original house. So we have a couple empty ones, or most empty ones here. Yeah, so 2 empty ones. Then we have our ones we had at the other house. And this is a pretty dinky little storage room, and it isn't even a true cellar, I don't think. But yeah, so we need to turn this into a true cellar, and we could do that easily by just slapping a couple doors down here and bingo bango, cellar. But I think it's time for us to consider the long-term design of our house, and especially the underground layout, because I do want to very soon think about maybe taking a break from the room-by-room building of our house and kind of work on some of the larger design aspects of it, because I want to get into using a Hellhammer setup. And that means we need to bring that windmill over here, and we need to figure out where it's going to go. Now, this house is going to be probably 2 stories tall above ground, and then we'll have a windmill above it. I'm thinking that the place to put the windmill is going to be like over on this side of the hill. That way it's sort of kind of central, and we'll sort of build up some of this land here to build up to the windmill and what will eventually be our greenhouse area. Because the second floor here, right in these areas here, will be our greenhouse, and maybe that'll come and extend over to here. I'd like to do probably 4-ish full-size greenhouses. So with the windmill means that we're going to have a space for a windmill shaft to come down, an axle, and make its way into sort of our drive system. And I'm kind of trying to do a central drive system so we have one room that handles like all of our gearing, and then we can have it split out from there to all the different places it's going to go. And I'm thinking that our gear room, our transmission room, is going to be downstairs here. And I've been sort of considering where I want to have our axle come down, and it's going to look ugly if we have it come down in the middle of a room. There's just no 2 ways about it, so I want to avoid that if we can. But I haven't really left a great place to drop an axle down because we don't have any locations where 4 walls meet at a perfect T-shaped intersection. Everything we have here is essentially a T-junction. And I guess a cross intersection is what I'm looking for. Although we do have... Are you the spot? No, you are not. So we can't just drop this in the center of a wall intersection and have it hidden that way. So we're going to build our own mechanism to hide it. And I'm thinking the ideal place for it would be, for me, let's see, 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3 would actually be right here. If I can break this up here. So I think what I want to do here is I want to put an extra facade, an extra layer here that's going to be like a support pillar because it's kind of halfway down the hallway. And so it might make sense that we'd have a bracing structure in our house that maybe supports this whole wall, because this whole wall might need to have some kind of load-bearing structure going across it just to make sure the house stays level and that all of the walls above have the support they need. And that means that we can turn this right here into the spot where our windmill shaft comes down. Which means that right here is the ideal place to actually put the windmill. So we'll leave that there for now, just to remind ourselves of where we're going to be looking to put this windmill. And I guess I'll be breaking back into the house this way. And then down here is where we're going to have our shaft go underground and into our basement area. Oh, and luckily, hey, look at that. All right. But we are going to want to have a place for processing things like cheese. And we're going to want to have a place for, of course, having our cellar, which this might pull double duty as a standard storage cellar and cheese cellar. And then we're also going to want to have that aforementioned transmission room. And I want to get all that dug out today. And so we're going to do a bit of an infrastructure episode, and we're going to get some of that done here. And while we do, we can listen to some nice tunes. Now that means that this episode is going to be kind of a mining episode, but I also want to take a look at probably getting in at least some of the floors and walls here. And we're also going to go over kind of the best way to maximize your pickaxe durability and your resource gain while doing work like this, without using a chisel to pre-chisel all the blocks. So I'm going to go ahead and grab another pickaxe if I happen to have one over here. I don't. Silly Corazar, picks are for kids. I'm also realizing that I didn't really give myself any space to hang tools in the house, so yep, whoops. I may have brought that up last episode, but I forget, and yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. I don't have a tool rack anywhere in the house, and really no great place to put it without it looking really ugly. Anyway, so the first thing I want to do is I want to establish how big our cellar is going to be, and I'm thinking we're going to go bigger than we did at Lupine Ridge. We're going to go for probably, well, I'm going to do a 7-block wide. This is pretty cramped. And I think we'll try a 5-block long. I don't really want to go 7 by 7 completely because I don't think we need that much storage space, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Anyway, let's get started with actually mining out this room. And the way I like to do it, to conserve resources and to sort of recoup as much material as we can for use later, is to dig out where the walls are going to be first. So we're going to dig out all of this junk here. So we now have a 7-block wide area. So we're going to go out to blocks 8 and 9 here. And we're going to start digging this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 blocks. So this is where the room will be inside here. We go 1 more block because we are inside the wall here. And we are going to do the same thing on this side. 5 and 6, like so. And then, in theory, if I hadn't miscounted, we should be able to just mine straight across here and then meet up with our original tunnel. And there we go. Now, it's at this point that you might sort of want to go into a standard quarry-style excavation here, but I don't think we're quite ready yet. Because in order to make the most, we also want to get our floor and our ceiling in at about the same time, and I do want to get some of that done here in the episode today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig, well, one, I'm going to dig up because I want this to be a 3-block tall cellar. So we're going to take out all of this. And there we go. And that's going to be the height of our cellar. Now that means we need to take out some of these blocks in the ceiling here, or what will be the ceiling. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to dig out as much as I can above the ceiling, as well as dig out the floor. Because all these blocks are going to go anyway, so there's no point in keeping them in. But I am going to preserve this corner piece, because we're going to have floor blocks and wall blocks. Actually, this whole corner could have been ignored, except that we need to actually walk there, so moot point. But this corner block will eventually get filled in with just solid blocks. So you can actually leave this sort of ridge here on the floor and the ceiling, because you're not going to see these blocks unless you are chiseling away a lot of your cellar's blocks, and you really shouldn't. Cellars don't play well with chiseled blocks, so pro tip, don't do it. I'm going to put this here just to remind me of where my floor is going to be, and actually I'm realizing that I didn't need to mine that out. I needed to mine these out here. There we go. And these will all drop to the floor as we mine the blocks under them. It's not a problem. We're just going to mine out all of the blocks in this whole little area. So now we have the floors and the wall dug out. I'm going to get the ceiling dug out a little bit here, starting with a dirt block, which makes this a little bit easier. These are all dirt blocks. That's actually even better. Okay, we're going to leave this here for now, because in order to take out the blocks in the ceiling, we're just going to dig out the dirt around them, and that will be easy. So from here, we are in fact going to go into a standard checkerboard pattern to remove these blocks. Bit like so. And then going to, of course, cut through here because we need to make space for ourselves to actually mine. There are ways of really heavily optimizing how many resources you get from a given volume. I find that the time invested in that, however, is not really worth the effort, or what you get out of it. So there we have everything all mined out. On this side, we're just going to go ahead and use a shovel to take out this dirt. And then we'll also dig out these ceiling blocks here. Like so. And there's apparently water right above us. Oh, I know what you are. You're our water supply for our dyes room. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing here. We'll take out this because we need a 2x2 or a 2-block wide strip to mine. Again, it's just not really worth the effort of spending the time to really get everything. We'll go ahead and mine it. Okay, so we now have a fully dug out room. It's a little bit larger than we need because these are going to be the walls here. I'm going to go into my inventory, and then we're going to come back with some blocks to replace those floors and walls. And maybe, just maybe, we'll do the smart thing and we'll drop a torch down here to keep creepy crawlies at bay. Alright folks, so into this project bin that's been sitting here. I totally didn't forget that I already had stuff in it or anything. No, I would never do that. But we have a bunch of swavite stone and granite stones, as well as some granite cobblestone and some granite stone bricks. And we're going to come in here and pick up all this junk. Junk, 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 junk. And let's start with the floor. I think what I want to do is I'd like to have a kind of calmer floor, so it's less noisy. Let's do granite stone bricks for the floor. And that way we will have a pretty sort of quiet floor. I find the brick to not be super noisy. which is what I want, but I do think I want to see how it would look if we also added in a few blocks of this Swavite, but polish it. Let's start with one. And let's see, do I like how this looks in here? You know, I kind of do. It's just a nice little variation. It's very different, but it almost looks like we maybe patched the floor here, or maybe that the brick is actually the patch and this was some kind of original stone. Yeah, I kind of like that. So 1, 2, let's drop you in there. So we need 6 more. Perfect. There we go. A floor that's not too noisy, but also not too plain. And then for the walls, I brought along a whole bunch of blue clay and some Swavite to make some cobblestone. There we go. And some granite for cobblestone as well. Now, unfortunately, you cannot turn Swavite into bricks, which is why I haven't done that here. I believe there are some mods that let you do that, but we are not using those mods. And I think what I want to do is we're going to use some more stone brick for our doorway. And by stone brick, I mean granite stone brick. And unfortunately, we are going to be using solid full blocks here because the seller requires it. Now the ceiling, I might run back upstairs and get some limestone for a brighter ceiling to make it feel a little larger in here than it really is. But for the walls, I want to primarily do a mix of the granite and the Swavite. And the thing I like about the Swavite cobblestone is that it doesn't look as different to the granite as the Swavite polished rock does from, say, polished granite where they're bricks. And that way, this can kind of look like a similar rock that was quarried maybe not too far from the granite, or perhaps just some dirtier rock. Maybe there's a water leak that came down and stained this rock, or maybe, I don't know, some plants growing roots down changed the structure or color of it somehow. And so we're going to make little patches of this rock here, and that will be how we sort of work some of this into the design. We don't really need this. I'm just going to fill these corners in with dirt, because we do not need to waste precious other resources in corners that will not be seen. Talking to you. That's pretty good. Let's maybe add you in. There we go. And then the rest of these, I'm going to start with mostly the cobblestone. Then I think I'll kind of come through in a second pass. And we'll pick out a few, like this one, and maybe these two, and these two, and maybe one here, and one here. And these will become more granite stone bricks. And there we go. Now we have a proper sort of dungeony looking cellar down here, where we have, you know, some lower quality stones mixed in with some of the leftover bricks from building something else, maybe the floor, maybe some older parts of the house that are no longer standing. Now, for the roof, I am kind of leaning toward... Let's try the limestone and see if it doesn't look too bright. This is also assuming I still have limestone. We blew through a ton of it making that hallway. Ah, we're good. So let's just do a small section right here. Does this seem like it's too bright? No, I think I like that. I think it's just enough. That way it'll also feel like this is like some rough plaster on the ceiling. A little dirtier, like the rest of our house. Yeah, I like that. Although, now that I've already placed on all these rocks, brilliant, way to go, Corazar, I'm kind of thinking I could have gone for some clay stone instead. And maybe at some point I'll come through and change that out, but for now, I'm pretty happy with limestone. And again, the cellar, it doesn't need to be super fancy. What it does need, however, is a door. So we're going to go ahead and get a door going in here. And let's maybe dig through our stash of doors and pick one out. Okay, by stash of doors, I meant single set of larch doors. Yeah, I can do some larch downstairs. Let's go ahead and use these. I think using a lighter door with that darker gray stone might work pretty well. So we're going to take this guy out, and we're not going to do that. There we go. Now, what we can do with the chisel is I'm pretty sure that we can, in fact, chisel a bit of a trim here without causing issues on the inside of our cellar here. So let's go ahead and try that here. We're going to chisel these guys. And that should still be a cellar on the inside. Let's find out. Yes. There we go. We have the cellar canning jar icon there. So let's go ahead and move our stuff in. There we go. Nicely askew and asymmetrical. Perfect. Now, I am unfortunately out of lanterns at the moment, but we do have a couple aged torch holders that will do for now. I think we'll come back through and put some lanterns in downstairs. But for the time being, I think these will be just fine. Let's put you, say, right here. And that will give a bit of a different color to the room. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start working on digging out some more of this cellar area. Starting with a hallway, it's going to run down here for, I don't know, a number of blocks. And I do need to note where this comes down. We are at negative 793, negative 256. And if we head down to our cellar, we are at 794 in this wall here. And we are 8 blocks away from where that shaft would come down. Let's go ahead and we're going to dig over there. And we will see just how long of a hallway we need. I am going to dig along here, sadly. And we're going to actually dig this back out because this will actually show. And I want to dig out a reasonably large room, probably right next to here, or maybe we'll just do our second room right where the shaft comes down, which is going to be not very far from here. And that will be our transmission room. So in theory, we should be able to dig up right here, and there is our ladder. Okay. That's not very far from here, so I am thinking that we will probably just turn an area down in here into the transmission room for simplicity's sake. But I think I want to keep tunneling this way a little bit. That way we have some room for future expansion. So yeah, let's do a bit of this. We're going to come down to 261. We'll see how that does us. And then we're going to do the same thing as before and work on taking out these dirt blocks. I am thinking that we're going to do a similar thing to what we did upstairs, and we're going to have a lower ceiling here. But I'm thinking we could very easily clone these arches down in the basement. That wouldn't be an issue. If we wanted to have smoother block lighting, though, we would want to use, say, like stairs, or do a much simpler chisel work on the ceiling. But I am thinking we're going to want to do a shorter ceiling, 1, just to conserve on resources, and 2, it would make sense that we'd have a short ceiling in our cellar here. So we're going to then do a bit of floor digging, and we're going to take out basically all of this stuff here, where there's any visible rock, any visible sandstone. I want to get rid of it. And we are also at the same time going to be doing some of this work to dig this out of here. And then I'll come through the bottom here to start carving out the floor to give us a path to walk on as it breaks these blocks on the first level of the walkway. And then same thing, we come through with the top side and just dig all this out. And like that, we've excavated our hallway. And doing this will also conserve your pickaxe durability, so especially if you are low on materials or just don't want to spend a lot of time making pickaxes, this is the way to go. It'll also get you plenty of full blocks to work with, which is always handy, as well as the usual number of small stones. Anyway, I'm going to get to it and start digging out a few extra rooms here. And once they're done, we'll start decorating them, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do with them. Okay, folks, I lied. I have done basically nothing but put things away. But I had a thought. I had a think and I had a thought. What if we bring our shaft down here, and then rather than putting our transmission room here, which, because of where I want to put our blacksmith area, which is actually out back, might be problematic, what if we instead put our transmission room over here? And we would do that by running our axle here, by digging this out here. Because we're going to have ceiling here and here, we can then just run the axle and hide it in the ceiling, and that way it stays invisible. And that way, if we do want to put anything over on this side, we don't have to worry about the axle coming down in a weird spot. Because no matter what, we're going to be creating angles in our shaft here, so we may as well just get it to where we want it in the first place. And over here, we're going to have a nice big area to work with where I think we'll be able to fit everything I want to do, because I want to get into some more advanced gearing in this season than we did in the first season. And for that, we need a reasonably large room, and I might even dig it down by an extra block. In fact, I might even dig it both up and down by an extra block to make sure we have enough room to work. Okay, now I'm going to get to it, and then we will take a look at what we've got. Alright folks, that was a pretty big building session down here. And I'm coming down with a pair of copper lanterns because there's no center to this room. So we're going to put you off to one side like that. Or like that. Yeah, I think the copper lanterns are going to add a bit more color to the room. If not with their light, then at least with their actual form. And the reason is that I want to put these torch holders out here because they don't have a collision box. So that way we can walk down here without having to duck our heads or avoid half of the wall because of lanterns. And right down here we're going to drop a lantern, boop, there. That is probably temporary because we're going to maybe need a second one to light the whole room. I don't know, we'll see. But also because this room is probably going to get filled with gears at some point. Gears and shafts and all sorts of different things. And this will have to move anyway. So we'll just leave it like that for now. Anyway, so here's what we have. We have our way down. It is fully stoned in now. No more dirt visible from here. And we come down to our cellar right here. Pretty cool. I think we'll have to get some shelves in here to store things like cheese and probably some Crocs long term. Probably even put a couple barrels down here for processing honey and or wine and or milk into cheese once we actually get some salt. And we'll do that in a row right across here like so, and a second row like so, and put a couple barrels in right here by the door. Now for the hallway, I wanted to go with a darker floor just to give it some contrast, because I knew I wanted the ceiling to be the same material as these, because we're going to have to do the cutaways to get over to the door frames. I didn't want to have to finagle a different color into the ceiling with that. It might lead to a funny looking join right here. But we have stairs down into a 5-block tall future transmission room, where we will have some gears or some axles coming through and then coming down out of the ceiling, probably right about here, is my guess. And again, same kind of walls, but we have a claystone rock ceiling. And you know what? I think I like it, but I'm glad I didn't put it in the other room, because that one is so much smaller. It needs the limestone to feel a bit larger. Now in here for the floors, I went with oak slabs and walnut slabs for the floor. I was going to do some stone, but I figured, you know what, we have so much stone on the walls and they're very noisy, and we have the very flat ceiling. The floor needed some definition, but not the same texture. So I went with the wood, and I think it's a nice contrast. It'll probably fit the room better than having stone everywhere, because that gets sort of tiring to look at. I'm going to leave this open for now, and once we get our axle down in here and all hooked up, then we'll come in and block this off forever. Or maybe even turn this into a room over here, I don't know. But at least this part will be blocked off forever. Well everyone, I hope you enjoyed the building session and the new music that we have access to. I think in between episodes I'm going to go and stop by our trader again, see if they have the armor that we're looking for our Resonance Archive run. I'm also going to, well, maybe not yet, but I'm going to keep an eye out for some more pine trees, because the reason that I haven't finished these off yet is that I kind of ran out of pine wood. We have a few more solid blocks, and I think maybe half a stack of logs left. But I wanted to save a few just in case we needed it for something else. We haven't yet, so I might as well just throw them in, but I don't think I can finish it. I think we're still too low on pine to finish all of our door frames. So I'm not going to worry about it for now, and we'll deal with that later at some point, probably in between episodes at a later time. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments, and I hope you're looking forward to the next couple episodes. Once we get into spring, we will need to start farming again, and then we'll also start going on some adventures outside the house to get new resources and to uncover new terrain. I think in the next couple episodes, though, we are going to be working on some of the more larger aspects of our house. Like I said earlier, we need to figure out where the windmill is going to go and how it's going to fit in relation to our greenhouses. So I think the next couple episodes we'll be dealing with some terraforming, and then maybe a few more carving of rooms or building out of some of the rooms. It might be nice to get our bonus room or our craft room done, as well as figure out where to put our staircase to get up to our greenhouses. Anyway, everyone, as always, my name is Corazar. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.